Hello, hello, hello. Good afternoon, good evening, good morning, wherever on a day in the world. This is Mohammed Shilan coming to you from North Carolina. Uh, for the past 2, 3 months, my co-host has been Mr. Victor Mengat, the man who really tries to educate us in a lot of issues concerning good governance, ranging from traffic to many other things. So now we say what would you do today? I can normally announce the numbers them that we can be reached and the various medium the way we able can through like Facebook, Instagram, in addition to the phone numbers then. So let me just go over the phone numbers. The phone numbers, if you try to reach me on the toll-free line for raise questions or for make comments, 866-944-7722. 866-944-7722. If you're calling from the UK, it's plus 44 2080891455. From London or England or UK, it's plus 44 2080891455. If you're calling from Australia, it's plus 61 2909843337. From Australia, it's plus 61 2909843337. And if you call on WhatsApp, then of course it will be 1-343-997-5828. Again, 1-343-997-5828. Most of now, or almost everybody, unless you are listening to this show for the very first time, we always try to make people understand what the basic rules are. So everybody understand this is an interactive broadcasting and is live worldwide. People call from various parts of the world. This show is particularly geared towards Sierra Leone and Sierra Leoneans, but we welcome non-Sierra Leoneans and to call and ask questions in English if they have been keeping up with what's being said. And then you can ask us and we will be able to reply in English because we all on the show do speak English, so that shouldn't be any problem. But because the show itself is being directed at Sierra Leoneans, we have chosen to speak the common language that we normally speak in Sierra Leone, and that is Creole. But that should not stop anyone who is from Ghana, Nigeria, India, or any other country from calling and asking us questions in English, even if it pertains to something that is not directly relevant to the issues being discussed. As long as it's about Sierra Leone, we don't mind. We will entertain the question and see and do the best we can. Okay, so we're not in a live show. Mutual respect. Call, not condemn. Not be disrespectful to a caller or to the host. And you can be accusatory, but as long as you accusation, if you want to say the host are biased, as long as it's done in a respectful way, we don't have any problem. You're entitled to your opinion, but don't do it in a disrespectful way because we do strongly encourage mutual respect because we get for raise with level of discourse. We would talk to ourselves, we forget self-respect to each other, we for conduct ourselves in a civilized behavior. And call for cursing or saying offensive things them to each other. So we strongly encourage people. We take the time for listening to it. For please try the best for just keep this within the confines of civilized behavior. That said, the topics for today, my co-host, Mr. Mengot, who has been so helpful to the show and to the rest of the country, who comes in with so much expertise and knowledge, he is going to tell we what in the topic and subtopics could be today, and we will take it from there. One more thing, people who are now regular listeners of this show, we do not say we also have a co-host, Ms. Fadima Savage, who has not been on for a while, she's still part of the show. We'll just, if and when she is not part, if it ever happens, that we will let the audience know. That said, I'll pass on over to my co-host. They will announce the headings for today. Thank you. Mr. Mengot, I pass it over to you.
Thank you very much, Mohammed. We fumble them in a good evening, in a good day, wherever you did. Usai day now is almost 1 hour towards midnight. I know say in the UK now, it could be about 8 o'clock next, whilst in Eastern time, it's about 4 o'clock. So within our different time zones, with this program, what one can do today, we want to talk about the elections where they come. In fact, we get almost 90 days for this election. This is a very important elections in our timetable, because the reason why it's so important, post-war, we get an SSPP government led by President Ahmad Tijan Kaba, we do 2 terms, then followed by an APC government led by Anes Baikroma, we also do 2 terms. Then this one now, at the 3rd election, so we don't get SLPP, APC, now SLPP in power, and we get a young, vibrant man who is no longer than the ex-soldier, retired Brigadier Bio. We in Insakul, they call him Mr. Talk and Do, and he not do 5 years. So it is seek the mandates of the people for say, let them get another 5 years. So you go complete in 10 years. But then you get the opposition side where you say, well, the government has not done well, so they don't deserve 5 years. But in between these 2 heavyweights, we get the Electoral Commission of Sierra Leone, where before we call them National Electoral Commission, NEC, now ECSL, where as we see recently, the Nongo parliaments, they don't give them new powers, and also during the last time when we get boundary delimitation, we get 1 new area, that is the north, when Akaine and Falaba, so now we get a new commissioner. So a lot of things don't talk about these elections, accusations, about and counter accusations, and the role of different players. So now all that we're going to examine. But before we start, one of the things we're very important, now the distribution of the voters' ID card. We will not see the nomination, we will not see registration don't take place. And this time again, there was a change, because normally registration can take place in 1 batch for 30 days. But for logistics problem, according to the ECSL, we do them twice in a fortnight. Then they say get gumbo. And also, they may not give you a timetable for distribute their ID card here after the registration. So we get over 3,300,000+. So the ID card, therefore, don't distribute them already, but we get small hiccup. So for start the program, one of we radio station in a tongue when a Radio Democracy 98.1, we interviewed the spokesman for the ECSL. So now watch this video, listen carefully to what he say, and then they go set the pace for our discussion.
So we come to the issue of the day we get to do with the voters' ID card, because you don't begin make mention of them already. Say now afraid to know for afraid some, so that make it don't delay for come, and when I don't change the dates to the 7th and to the 16th April, 7th to 16th April, now on a say they make people and get some voters' ID card them. So it's not the issue, we don't cause the delay. Now hired flights, they bring the voters' ID card them.
Okay, now I want to take people into the process, because once you understand the process, you're able to know the challenges them and the externalities then we affect the delivery of the voter ID cards. Now we get over 3 million. We get 3,374,258 voter ID cards for print. We will not get that capacity in country. So what we do through NPPA, we advertise for international. We do international bidding process. But we make them very clear. See, if you bid as an international partner, you forget a local partner they in country where you go able for work with. So we advertise our newspapers, them bidders then come in. We open the bids in the presence of the bidders, then the seal bids in the presence of the bidders. Then we do an evaluation process. We select the most responsive bidder. We now a service provider in Greece. Okay, and you find out because of the timeline and because of the quantity of cards, we get very limited bidders. So we'll get wide option where you go see, you will look at the distance, or you go look at this one way, you go see accessible, this, that. No, we get very few bidders them. And when we evaluate this company in Greece in Winam, but we sign the contract with them, we send the good thing is that we get the register of voters where we develop in country. So what we do, we send out the soft copy of the register to them, because from the register you print out the cards. Now they don't do the cards in the process for making them transport them to Sierra Leone. We get a strike where the air traffic controllers then strike in Greece. But in any election process, if you get plan A, then you get a plan B. So plan A, I've been following the air freight, all of them, one flight come. Even that we may get some challenge, because see by relocation, if you take a chartered flight, it will load for come, but for go back, it will go empty. So if you say they do business, go around that kind of business, the way you come, get goods again for take go. So we will still go ahead and charter the flight. Say, okay, we will give you halfway for go back. We'll foot the bill, okay? But because the air traffic controllers they on strike, they're not able for
they on strike
now Greece, okay? They're able for come. But the plan B now is that we now get the cards in country for meet up the dates we don't see we will give them. Because you see the issue out cards, then the cards are not there. Why maintain the date? But the process not being stopped. Because every electoral activity in a process, we don't develop the manuals, we don't develop the procedures, we don't start for train the trainers, we don't done for train the trainers. And 3 weeks ago, we don't the following 2 weeks back we train the district staff. Then this past week, we don't train the card election coordinators. That is that we supervise the distribution, the issuing process. Now we just don't train them Saturday before we realize the flight not will come. So we halt the process at that point. We not come. He left one set of training we for do. When I can train the card issuing staff them, we really control the center. There are 2 staff per center. So that one day we halt the process at that point and say, okay, let we look at how we will put a plan B in action. Now as I talk, I can assure you, say we don't get assurance. See, now we will bring and come not in 1 consignment, we will bring and come in 2 consignments. Because now they look at, so we don't miss that contract, the other plane in schedule. So now we don't get 1 week we bring and come for week Saturday. The first batch will come. And that one, when it come, we will make sure say say they don't come. They don't come. Because we'll not go unless somebody tell you back again, so we don't take and go hide and society. Or then they can give misinformation, so we don't go keep them somebody else. Because now they say the trainer president in use. We don't know who keep them back, so and what post in use.
So what's it cost?
So we can make sure say we bring and come, and we will make the public know say they don't come. When it come, the second tranche will come a few days after. But now we don't ensure say the 17th to the 26th March no go right again. Now we don't push them to the 7th, from the 7th to the 16th of April. Which means it will still start on a Friday, the 7th of April. It will end on a Sunday, the 16th of April. Which means the weekend. We put on a weekend so that everybody will get chance for good day and pick up your card. The card na their own, not to be own. So then we're able for good day, get enough time for take the cards then. So immediately the cards then come in country. All what we need for do now, and for those go train the staff the way for work at the center. Then we deploy them and start for distribute the card.
How much it cost the commission for prints and card them bring and come?
I'll not get that now because you know, we still work on the process.
No, planning, the budget won't have been planned during the planning stage.
No, I not still get that one there with me. I'm not able to talk now because, you know, we not pay it. You know, say the contract, they go and negotiate. You give the person the contract, a supply.
So based on the negotiation, now waiting the person be propose, saying that DC wants for the work because
no,
the contract.
I not get that figure there with me now.
Okay, Mr. Mengot, I know you're the expert in this, but I got some questions while I'm posed to you in answering or in response to this video to listen to, if you don't mind. Do you?
Go ahead.
All right, sir. Just listening to this short video of this representative from the Electoral Commission, I got a few questions, and maybe you will make some clarification for me and the rest of the listeners. Them. Number one, he says the cards will not get a capacity. The Australian not get a capacity for print about 3 or more million cards. So for that reason, NIMEC then decide for give an external contract to a company with the condition that that company they get a local partner, meaning Australian, way for do that. To me, when I listen to that, I get two questions, and this is why the country has so much difficulty going forward. Because to me, this borders on I think it borders on insulting the intelligence of the people, the Australian people, all of us. Now, once upon a time, sir, we used to have what you call the government printer's office, where we print all our official documents them. And it seems to me an ID card is not such a big deal in today's world that a country like Sierra Leone, a nation, cannot afford to have the machineries where go print such a card. So was it more economical for contract the printing of such a card? You know, because this ordinarily, under the old rule, under the old practice, this is something that will have been done by the government printer's office. But why is it necessary? This is just printing, where it deals with machines. Are we saying the government of Sierra Leone lack the ability to order the same machines that will go print them cardiac and more economical? Two, listening to the man very carefully, he's talking about chartered flight to bring just cards. So, and because if you listen to that, what you may able to deduce is say, since when you charter a flight, when they come in, you know, it will get difficulty, the flight will go back empty, then try to meet them halfway. What does that mean? So did they pay them because they would charge much more than it would have ordinarily been just to deliver papers, cards? Okay, do we need to charter a flight? And the question what the young lady asked, it makes sense. And thirdly, it's my understanding that the EU is financing all of this. So when he asks how much it costs the government, can you clarify for WISA if it costs the government anything? Or the EU has already given us some money where they try for make so complicated and complex even to get local partner, for just do printing, where the government itself could do without any extra cost. So there is so much here for unpack, you know. Then they say, he used the word responsive bidder. He said the most responsive bidder was from Greece. So I'm not so sure if that's what he meant and what did he mean when he say responsive. Because my understanding of the language, the English language, you say responsive, not just the ability to respond. So I don't know how you quantify that by saying the most responsive. and if there's more than one, say the most responsible or the most anything, they say the most responsive. So I may have misunderstood what he meant. And then can you clarify for us, sir, because you use the postponement was justified based upon air traffic control strike in Greece. How long did that air traffic control strike take place? And why would that have had such an impact in the deadlines for the distribution of the cards them? So I just want let you take all of that into account, we to give we to explain to we let we all understand. I mean, is this just much ado about nothing, or are we just making a simple thing look very complex? Because I haven't heard anything that he said that justifies all the delay and all this expense and everything. And I think they should have more regard for the people by now, for the country. They shouldn't be talking to people, I think, as if they're in kindergarten. But I may be wrong. I stand corrected. So back to you, sir.
Yes, I mean, my brother, you want me to now use my air traffic control hat and also the governance hat. Yes, so let's start first. I think say the Ecsl been published a timetable of delivery of the different things the way they get for deliver. Where one of them include the distribution of ID cards, that's voter ID cards. But then it comes to communication, because we were expecting this whole distribution of cards for take place from the 17th to the 26th of March. So if we look at the timetable where I'm in GUI, we know say the best laid plans not always function. They may say January the 2nd to the 3rd of January, printing of ID cards, 5th to the 10th of February, packaging and sorting of ID cards at warehouse. Where I assume say sometimes the warehouse will be either a salon. So which means from their original timetable, the ID cards them don't come. But we not go fault them, because like any person where you plan things can change. We'll all go back to this reason for delay. Right? We get a communique when a press or announcement by the Ecsl on the 13th, if you remember, on the 13th of this month. And it say, then they push the distribution of ID card for, if you look at, let's look at this public notice. It says the public is hereby informed that the distribution of voter registration card, which was scheduled for 17th to 26th of March, has been postponed. And the new date for distribution cards is 7th. That's fine, acceptable. But now look at the reason for the postponement. It said this postponement is due to the delay in air freighting of voter registration card caused by strike action of air traffic controllers of the chartered cargo flights. But then, let's focus on that, because communications is very important. For me, from my own experience in air transportation and logistics, air traffic controllers not get nothing to do with cargo flight. So I do my research. When I did my research, this notice was posted on the 13th. The strike was by the Greek air traffic controllers, which then they joined other people, other workers in Greece for protest. And if them postpone, if this message was issued on the 13th, the Greek air traffic controllers then were supposed to start a 24-hour strike on the 17th. Anybody can check that. It's a 24 hours rolling strike, which means it's a continuous strike. So they will do one 24-hour strike, then they announce the next step for the other 24-hour strike. So if you look, say, well, if they don't print the card safe, then there's no issue on the 13th. Chartered flights can always get planning permission for takeoff, not like a scheduled flight. The only problem where they will get now landing in Freetown. And that again not a problem. Because before a plane take off from the airport of departure, again for file a flight plan, we will reach the airport of destination. And I'm sure if they may file a flight plan and say they will reach Freetown before the 17th of April, 17th of this month, March, when a day the first strike for camp, they would have given them permission. So let's give them the benefit of doubt, because the 13th was the issue of the communique, but the strike not take place until the 17th. But then, if you look at from their own timetable, they were supposed to distribute the card from the 7th to the 16th of April, which means if they want distribution from the 7th to the 16th of April, if we don't reach Freetown well before the 7th, at least the 1st of April. So I just take people through this timeline and say, well, there are more questions than answers. So now that could be my own comment about the communique and waiting and tell me. But then next, you talk about, would they have to use a chartered flight? Yes, if you say, let's look at the capacity. He told us that they have to print 3,374,258 ID card. Normally, you can air freight it. But because we probably not get the direct flight from Greece to Freetown, well, I mean, I don't know, people can tell me the volume. Because ID card in a small card, 3 million card, I'm sure if you look at it, it could be easily air freighted from one of them scheduled airline. We could take them from Athens airport to even Paris or Brussels, and we then can bring and come by air cargo directly with plane. Well, I left that, you know. But the whole idea of doing the charter flight, and what he explained, say, when you charter a flight, you charter the flight over a fixed period. And if now one way, the cost when they charge you, it take into consideration and the fuel usage, landing fees, and all those sort of things. So this idea for say you pay double for to and fro, I know all that from my own knowledge of aviation and logistics. But that is what he told us, you know. But then now look at the timeline, now look at the dates, and anybody can question some of these things because I did the research. You can go and research. My key argument is the communique was on the 13th. The strike was supposed to start on the 17th, which is 4 days before the strike, 9 and 10. But actually, this ID card should have started distribution according to their own timetable from the 17th to the 26th of March. So if now from the 17th to the 26th of March, when 9 and 10, obviously, we've been for the expect then cardiac at least by the 10th of March. So I'll let people enjoy. The other thing where you ask about is the cost. When they ask about the cost. For God's sake, let's clarify one point where you make. And I know say a lot of people then go and take that on board. The EU, not so then they pay for election. What they have, we have like a basket fund. Government, they contribute to that, but the pledges so far is 10 million US dollars. And that 10 million US dollars, they come from the EU, Irish Aid, and UNDP. And we shall say before the ECSL go out to tender, we remember some time ago, there was some discussions that they had a budget to do all these things, even starting with the term where they order the tablets them and the software for the registration. So they must have had a budget. I find it surprising that a man who is a spokesman for the ECSL not able to know what's in at the cost of this, because I'm sure where they can this interview, then they brief her for say, now so and so, they can't talk to Webot, waiting at the delay. He should have got that information at hand. But if you say not get him, let's give him the benefit of the doubt. The other thing we're very interesting, when you talk about the bidding, they say the Greek company, not responsive, but I think say that now a use of language. In fact, I would think what he meant that the Greek company that they may give the most competitive bid. But what I don't understand, why have a local partner? What is the role of that local partner? Because the local partner, they distribute. If
they print?
They print, they distribute. Because when the cards they arrive at the airport, it is now the responsibility of ECSL and the security, which include ONS, the Office of National Security, and probably if they need military or police, when I then go take then card then they from the airport to a secure warehouse. So where does a local partner come in? All that will add to the cost, because what is the role of the local partner? Is it for communication? We don't know. For God's sake, the other reason where it give, now for say, we not get the capacity in country for printer, over 3 million. But I'll give a parallel. We know say, we get biometric driving license. The quantity might not be that much, but that was planned. And when we decide for do them biometric driving license, which in size and details, in fact, I don't even get more details, because if we look at biometric driving license, on the front part, it gets the picture and which I would say the biodata. Then on the back part, you get the different categories of vehicles where you license concluded. So this voter registry ID card is similar to that of a driving license. Where something at the front page no more, you will get fulfilled. Then something at the back, you will say, if found a number for, if you find this card, a number, where you go send them to the ECSL, and the ECSL can use the contact for the person we get in the card and get them. So I don't see any big deal. For God's sake, we've had a government printers. We know now we also the print national ID and ECOWAS ID. I'm sure we'll get machine them. Because if you take the number of people them where they get national ID, that's my logical argument. There are more than those who are eligible to vote. Because you're only eligible to vote if you're 18 years old. So if you take the number of people that will require both national ID and ECOWAS ID, they are more than the number of voters. So if we can get the systems in place for national ID in country, why didn't we think of having the same system and machines for print the voters register in country? That's a comparison. You cannot argue about that. You have more citizens requiring ID than the number of voters on the voters register. Because for God's sake, we have a population of 7.5 million, including children, because even IDs have children, with school going age children and forget ID. And if we look at logically, where the majority of the populations are a younger generation, and we get a lot of people who are under 16, I'm sure even if we look at the education statistics, we have almost 2 million people going to school. So I don't see the argument for, say, because of the volume, we cannot print those IDs in country. So I think, say, this is my take on some of the issues you raised. And I don't know if I've answered all your questions.
Yeah, I think you have. Let me also add to that. With a national ID, is there a necessity for a voter's ID? What does a voter's ID do, or that a national ID cannot do? The same purpose, because if I get my national ID, my date of birth day, my picture day, my address supposedly for day, and my biographic is on there. So you can determine if I have to be above 18 or at least 18 to vote. My date of birth clearly will indicate on my ID card that I am either eligible age-wise or I'm not. So what extra layer does a voter's ID add to the whole issue of whatever the reason is to get a voter ID? I'm just trying to get some clarification here, because again, I personally don't see the necessity for it, but I may be missing something very vital. So I don't know if you can shed some light on for me.
I think this is an issue which I also have a similar view. I mean, I cannot compare the situation in Sierra Leone like what we have in the UK or US. That's completely different. But every year, every time when they approach election, we prepare for get a voters register. That is by law. It's under the constitution. It's a constitutional mandate. You go, you register, and the reason why you go register now for identify you constituency USA you did, and waiting and they update the register. Sometimes since the last registration, some man go don't die, or some man go don't move out. You know, like people and go don't left the country. So yes, you renew the voter ID, the voter registration. So when you go do voter registration, then they give you a slip. If, for instance, you don't get that slip, say you don't register, you name for the voters register. So ideally, now we get NIN number, and what they should have done for safeguard everything, since we already have provision for national ID, all they could say, when you want to go vote, go with your national ID or your passport or your driving license. Your driving license gets you NIN number with a unique number, because now that NIN number now, it cut across all your documents, the driving license, national identity, passport. So if you go with that NIN number there, you go to the electoral period, they can certify, say you're on the voters register, then you vote. So this idea of having a separate voter ID, to me, it makes the whole process so cumbersome. And I hope so now that we don't get this NIN. The next election, when they do registration, we know we'll get all this problem for begin print a separate voter ID. Because I know say the last time will be print one, which in 2018 I registered and get one, I don't know this time. People were also using the voter ID as a form of national registration. But that's national identification, like if you want to go bank or all those sort of things. Yeah. But that no longer suffices, because we already get a system where everybody gets a unique national identification number, and you should go and get your national identity, whether the national identity or the Ecsl identity or driving license, because all those are linked to your national identification number. So again, that's my answer to your question.
Okay, sir. So, which confirms what I'm saying. A voter's ID is totally unnecessary because it contains no new information that the national ID doesn't have.
It's perishable because after the election, it doesn't have any other purpose.
Yeah. And on the other hand, if in fact a national ID, voter's ID, if we understand what the meaning of identification is all about, I don't see any reason why people couldn't use or shouldn't use their national ID, their voter's ID, as an ID card, because it's an ID card. If I get my voter's ID, it gave me picture, it gave me name, why shouldn't I use it as an ID card? So you see the monotony. People are not putting thought process into the whole thing in a constructive way. And some of these things we need to call them out, because if you look at it,
it was used that way in the past. It was used in that way in the past before we get the national ID.
And I think they should continue to use it. It shouldn't be useless just for one purpose. You go vote and then you voter's ID. Now, if I think you should be able to use your voter's ID as a national ID card, because all an ID card is to identify genuinely, truly who you are. So if you get a government authorized ID card, whether a voter's ID, whether the so-called national ID, whether a driver's license, these are all government issued documents that you should be able to use as an identification. The problem when we see here, money is being wasted in the sense that, because if this man is talking about chartered flight, he is talking about incapacity to print, you talking about some heavy lifting, a lot of money we're talking about here, to the point of, I even disclose the amount. You say, hey, we don't know how much it costs because I don't get that information there. You see, my position is we have to stop insulting the intelligence of the people. People are smarter than that. National voters ID is not necessary. I know, say you were modest. You say you know and compare we to England or America. My thing is, we should compare Sierra Leone to America. Why should it be any different? An ID is an ID. All them identification things I would use. Now, because we compare from other countries, all we have to do is look back. Driver's license and all this kind of thing. Now, from the West recently, then compare. So we know for copy, when we want for copy, then we know how for duplicate, triplicate, quadruple, thing we want for waste money. But that said, we shouldn't let these people get away with some of them lousy explanation here within the GI. What we know full well, and then this thing, like you raised the question, why is a local partner necessary? What does that person have to do? What else does he contribute to the whole process? The printing is done. The shipment has taken place. The thing is in Sierra Leone. So what does a local partner have to do? Or what creates the necessity for a local partner? This is I just think it's awful. And people like us, it's difficult for me for us listen to something like this and not be critical about and be doubtful about the intention or the good faith intention of the people that will come up with this kind of thing. I go back to you, sir. So I may sound like I'm being critical, but I am. Hello, caller. Hello, caller. What's your name and which side you call from?
I am Mohammed Boijalo Jamboria, calling from Norway.
All right, Mr. Jamboria, love to hear your voice, and thanks for calling. Please go ahead.
Yeah, on this issue we'll now discuss, I think we then look at it from the wrong perspective.
Good.
You are looking at the money that is spent. It's not about the money that is spent. It's about the sincerity and the efficiency in the system. Voters ID, not to any special card. As long as the person gets an identification, we can be in passport, in driver's license, In Norway, we even use our bank card as ID. As long as the bank card gets a photo and your social security number, it's a valid ID card you can use anywhere in Norway. But when time comes for election, then they send to you a piece of paper where say you forgo vote. It's just an ordinary paper, not anything special. It comes in the post. Why do you need to have that paper? It depends on the type of electoral system owner they use. And also it depends on the status of the person, now the country. In Norway, if you are not a citizen, and if you have residence permit, you are allowed only to vote at municipal level, or translated into the Sierra Leone situation, somebody when are just a resident permit holder, he only votes at district council level. Citizens are the ones who vote at national elections. So this is why anytime there is elections, they give ID cards for you to go and vote. When it's time for municipal elections, the ID card is different from what they give for the national elections. And that for the national elections is only used and sent to citizens. So what we have here in Sierra Leone is we don't even have a system. We are doing guesswork in everything. We get a national ID card office. We're supposed to produce a permanent data of all people in Sierra Leone, citizens and non-citizens. That one has not even been properly done. We get the ECOWAS card, where they complement that one of the National Registration Office. That one also is not properly done. Why do we have to send to Jericho or Space to go and print a voter's ID card? Voter's ID card can be printed internally if everybody has a national ID or some driver's license or passport or whatever to identify themselves. And of course, the risk where this system they put with countries, even people who are not citizens can get voters card and vote. So it's all about insincerity, it's all about mistrust, and the things that have held us back over the last 60 years. We want to do things, but we keep repeating doing the same thing. And according to Albert Einstein, that's the definition of insanity. Let God help Sierra Leone. Sierra Leone is in an ethical and moral decadence. That's where I'll end it, sir.
Thank you very much so much, Mr. Jamboria, for calling. You shed additional light on what we are talking about or what I was talking about. Sincerity is just an added layer to the purpose for which a national ID or a voter's ID is given. And so we greatly appreciate you calling for those add some light or shed some light on the whole process that we I think we know the utilize with funds and with talent to a proper use, because we shouldn't be duplicating situations like, you get ECOWAS ID, you get national ID, you get driver's license, you get passport, and then they say you need voter's ID. And the irony of it all, a voter's ID is not going to contain any more information than the other identification or government issued authorizations I just named. So I wish somebody can make a case, a convincing case to me as to why a national ID, a voter's ID is even necessary. And then with the voter's ID alone, we run the risk of even having non-Sierra Leonean voting, because that doesn't quite create the restrictions where a non-citizen forget not to be able to vote. But I'm back to you, Mr. Mengot. I just wanted to make a comment on that.
Let me be fair to the system. It will be difficult for a non-Sierra Leonean to vote because when you go register as a voter, you get for show proof of nationality. Yeah, where will be your birth certificate or your NIN number. So I think that let's get that clear. Say the chances of a non-national registering as a voter is very slim. But then continuing, one of the things which I want to say is that, and that could bring a lot of controversy where people are not raised. Now, given the timetable, right? They don't print all these 3,374,258 ID cards. And as we were told by the spokesman for ECSL, the first batch will come, then a couple of days after, the second batch will come. So, given that we have different constituencies and different districts.
May I interrupt you, sir?
Yeah.
If it's coming in 2 batches, and he said chartered flight, so are they going to have chartered flight twice to bring them? I just want,
well, that is the likelihood.
Okay.
Unless you have the same flight doing 2 trips.
Which is highly unlikely.
Which is more expensive.
Highly unlikely. I don't think that's what is going to happen. But go ahead. I was just trying to get some clarity on that.
Yeah. So my concern, which I'm sure a lot of people will concern, you get over 3 million cards, which they're bringing now, and then the distributor, even in advanced countries, you can get data mixed up. Because we know some people in the gum will say 1 time a day, where the constituency where they register, not to that day the voter ID. So let's say, for instance, make it simple, you can register in a Freetown urban, then sometimes the constituency then puts na your card. Now for a constituency in a Freetown rural, not just go for, just take the area. So who verifies that information say correct? Because if you register in one constituency, then you get a voter's ID, where sometimes a mistake puts the constituency number, and you go votes to that constituency where you feel say you did. Then you tell you say you don't register for vote to that constituency there. Does that not mean disenfranchisement? That is a serious concern. I would like you, if you can comment on that. Because verification is very important. Because there's no time. Then bring and come, then get for care and go to a warehouse. That warehouse, we don't know, but it will be secured. We hope so. Because even Joseph say, they may not say that they do something a president hosts. And for a state official, that kind of banter there is frivolous, in my opinion. You understand? But let's give him the benefit of the doubt. Yeah, but the warehouse where the care go. Then from the warehouse now, let's look at the real supply chain. You take it to the warehouse. From the warehouse now, it has to be dispatched to the district headquarters. From the district headquarters, it now goes to the different polling stations or centers for people for collecting. That whole process, for me, looks a bit risky. It's a high-risk process. Either cards then get lost, or they're not able to go to the constituency in time, or like we see during the registration, with some center they're not open in time because they not get light or all anything in it. So that would be my comment on that, sir. And over to you.
Okay. Couple of things. One, you mentioned which in the government spokesperson say about there had been rumors that some of these things were being done at the president's residence. But unfortunately, if he's going to be that sarcastic, because I think he was being sarcastic, he should be also smart enough to issue a disclaimer by saying there had been rumors, say we do some of them here, which is not true. I issue a disclaimer. So I take the position that maybe some of it was true, and I make issue a disclaimer to that effect, because you just can't browse over it and let it stay, and then tomorrow has this way out for say, well, people, and I'll be ever tell when I say, happen at the president in place. Then I want the thing about you mentioned the whole issue, because we look a lot of times life is so complicated. We have to look for simplistic way for resolve a lot of stuff. Okay, let's say you go in an area where not today you register for vote. The system should be set up in such a way there should be another person at that polling station there. Go for look your name, look your ID card, and look the information immediately. Now make we get this is the advantage about digital information. They should be able for tell you say no, not to hire you for vote. Now so and so place that you for vote. They should be able to direct you. It should not be enough to just tell the person not to hire you the vote. That would be a gross disservice. And talking about disenfranchisement, that also would be that. You should be able to be told, because there's a likelihood that that will happen to some people, even in developed countries. Sometimes people don't pay attention to the constituency or the place where you go vote. Then you can go to the wrong place, because we are, who say to go vote not consistent, they can change the polling stations them sometimes, even if you live in the same neighborhood. So you can forget an idea generally where you're supposed to go. But if you go to the wrong place because you vote last year, there are always people who will tell you, now so and so place you for vote. So if we really are trying not to disenfranchise the people, we should have people on the alert, anticipating that this may happen, and for direct that prospective voter day for go na the right place for make sure say a casting vote. So if we don't do that, that is constructive disenfranchisement, because we knew it could happen, we made no preparation for it, and then that person they maybe get frustrated, and so vote. Where meetings say now government's responsibility. The other thing is you were talking about what I would call chain of custody. The papers arrive, then go put in a warehouse. Well, how we need a better description of how is it cared for. And when it leaves that warehouse, this is what I call the chain of custody, and goes into another location, into other hands. It should be, public should be aware, how are these things kept, how are they taken care of until the day of the elections. So these are very important things we will pay attention to, but it doesn't seem like we're giving it the importance it deserves. So these are some of my own comments about how we improve the system. And again, if the practice for every succeeding government, and this is what we are shooting ourselves in the foot. If when a government exists, they go try for decapitate the system to give an undue advantage to them, we will never make progress. Because instead of we add an extra layer of security, efficiency in the system, we go ahead and dismantle the system so it's not going to be efficient for giving an undue advantage over the other. But there is a victim here. At the end of the day, it's the country that suffers, So either we can have it both ways. Either we commit yourself, but if we notice, we are not we are not lacking in progress accidentally. Because when you look, succeeding government after succeeding government, what they do, they know they come, they improve what in the other one left. Then they come, either they go argue, say, well, the other one able to do this bad thing, so what's wrong with them? Instead of them say, the other one able to do this bad thing, we want to make sure say stop. So this is how we plan for making better. So even we, starting with we within a power, we're not going to get undue advantage over anybody else. I mean, we'll make sure, say, no succeeding government will come and try for prevent surreptitiously any other government would come. But so the lack of sincerity, like Mr. Jamboria say, is what seems to be the problem. Because everybody want to get added advantage. Like I say, I keep referring to the two-party system. When APC in a power, of all the things they had to do, then decide for increase districts. I mean, it had to convince any serious-minded, any knowledgeable person for say there was a need for that. Then SFPP come, then SF say, well, Constitution say we can do midterm census, which was also necessary. So when I would listen, when I tell me, how are we supposed to make progress? There is no need for a midterm census with the Constitution. First of all, it's bad law. Whatever statute give the president that power there, it's not only ridiculous, it's just bad law. You cannot put something in the Constitution and say it should happen every 10 years. Then parliaments go back and say, but the president get the power and in discretion. He can ignore the Constitution and just and declare a census long before in 10 years. What kind of system is that? What kind of law is that? What sort of lawyers or members of parliament allow such a thing to happen? And then the irony of all ironies, when you talk to people, oh boy, Australians, they would tell you, oh, this guy not very bright, that lawyer, they very bright, not brilliant. The word brilliant is so misused in Australia. They're very brilliant guy. Then I will begin tell you, the one when I be there school, how I be sharp guy, which has nothing to do with being brilliant. Okay? But this is what is killing us now in the country. How can you say census now every 10 years? It's in the Constitution. The Constitution is the supreme law of the land. Then when I turn around, when I pass a statutory law entitling, in contradiction to the requirement of the Constitution, that the president, in his own discretion, he just get fulfilled that way. He can order a midterm census. Then the other governments then figure, say, okay, if we just add 2-3 more districts, because they will take the APC pattern. If we take that trend of thinking, well, there will come a time where Australia will get 100 districts, because if every government follows suit, all they get for doing that for follow that methodology there, or that formula there, and anytime you say it advantageous for create another district within a district, you create one. But all these things hurt the country. And for people and for tell people like we for say these were done by brilliant people, they need to go back and look at the definition of brilliance. You know? So
I just want to extend that your argument, something which I'm also has been of concern, because we talk about elections. And for remind we voters and we listeners and back, we topic today. Now, given this delay we don't get in distribution of ID, whether the ECR will meet the schedule. But before we go there, one thing you mentioned, which has always intrigued me, and I'm sure you and I grew up in Sierra Leone in those days, given a country with a population of 7.5 million, why do we need 132 members of parliament? In weekdays, if you take Freetown, we will get East 1, East 2, Central 1, Central 2. Central 3, then West 1, West 2, then a 6. Then you get Mountain Rural, where you talk about Regent, York, and Waterloo. Then they cover the whole western area peninsula. But now with the area about constituency 110, constituency 079, which is numbers. Before, when they say it's 3, I know say mean I'm always born a full talk. Right? I know say that area then a mountain cut now be East 1. Because we be there near Central 1. Then after that, going forward to Fubena is 2. So we are more akin to a constituency. So the question we have to think about, do we need all these MPs in parliament with digital numbers of constituency? Where they go there now, they're not even working with interest. So let's leave that for another day. I don't know if you want to comment, so we can go to the next part where I think say we'll talk about this thing. Now we want to look at the timetable.
We have a caller. Let me answer. If I may answer that call, then we'll move on, sir.
Yeah.
Hello, caller. What's your name? What's the call for? Hello.
Hello. Good evening.
Yes, sir. Good evening.
I had a call from New Jersey, US.
Okay, welcome.
All right. Thank you very much, Mr. Shillon and Mr. Mengot, and thank you, viewers, for this opportunity and for the great work with viewers to do. And we hope soon I will continue in this vein, irrespective of other people and criticism say on a one-sided, but me not see them anyway. But to my point, based on waiting Mr. Shillon and Mr. Mengot just round up with before we go to the next topic, I always don't say this government, this president and the administration will get any moral standing for raise all the kind of criticisms wouldn't always over them predecessors. Because if they know they do equally the same thing where they criticize them for, then they do worse. So there is no moral standing on which basis for make them criticize them at all. And I just want to bring remind we all, say this president promised a change, which every well-meaning Sierra Leonean go wish for see. There is no reasonable Sierra Leonean we will see in the APC 11 years, everything was good. And Sierra Leoneans, they meet, they get their expectation from a president who they elect. No reasonable Sierra Leonean no will make that kind of statement. However, the people then take an action after 11 years for replace them with the most responsible action by the people of Sierra Leone. Because if your leader we elect not do well for you, by all standards, you get the right. You deserve the right to take them out. So on the basis that the incoming one promised will change to a different direction, we don't see them change them there. All them promises and then are nonsense. And then busy. If we look at some of the actions then throughout, like when at some point we see the SLP government, they boss people there from neighboring Liberia for can do registration. I cannot imagine if the opposition party they ever get bossed in Ghana, Liberia, and Guinea and bring people in Sierra Leone for can register, what that would have turned out to be. But that is a discussion for another day. So coming to this voter ID card thing, the whole thing don't start from the registration. Now it's flawed process. They don't cook up numbers then. Now they try for work, for mix them cardia, for make sure they cardia match the numbers then they. This is not some of the difficulties. It's very clear. Nobody no need for no law about it. The protest will claim they happen wherever in the country. For this, they don't issue this thing prior to the protest. It's not like it happened in the middle of the protest. So what he really did is for make somebody convinced. But I will end for say, I get two questions where I can ask everybody will claim to be a supporter of the new administration or SLPP. One is, do we think that the SLPP is going to continue in power forever? If you think that way, you sleep and a bad dream you get. It will never happen. There will be a change of government one day. The second question say, do we actually still say, do we actually think that when there's a change of government, will anybody will wish to see a repetition of what they happen so now? That politics of dismantling, say if I meet somebody start something, they're not perfect. If you know say a good, forget about the name. Continue because for the betterment of the country, because you're not going for it forever. That politics of dismantling and favor, say I walk around the constitution for things that will favor me, as if not only you time Sierra Leone will be built, that is totally wrong. So we were the support. We get to be very careful and always get this in mind. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, sir. We appreciate that. And please stay tuned and feel free to call.
End up. Yes, I just acknowledge them because he said the constituency will begin at Freetown. I've been West 1, West 2, West 3, and East 1, East 2, East 3. But also, I will add to that, we even get Central 1 and Central 2. Because Central 1, now we come on at that Bembrace area. If you know that area, we even get with Central 1 WhatsApp group, then Central 2, and then we come on the other side and reach Brookfields. We can call then this and then I'll be the better one than Afrito. So we get that distinction there between Central 1 and Central 2. And even when you take West 3 as well, West 3 go further. Then come across areas, they're all them places in there. So thank you very much for your correction, sir. Much appreciated. So that the constituency then they will be get. And if you look on that basis there, so Western Urban, you can get 8 constituencies then there. Then you get 3 for the mountain, for Western Rural. When I be mountain constituency, then a regent area, we will get some famous MP then there like NAP Buck and Solomon Pratt and Gideon Dixon Thomas. We will get York when I be like Shears. We will get Waterloo, where when I'm in parts of the country down there, we will get the famous Manfred Onike Cole, M.O. Cole, a legend. But I'll leave it as that. Somebody now don't put it look like say people in the enjoy will show. Somebody don't put Central 1 Akibo Power.
That's true too.
Yeah,
that is so true.
Yeah. This one, what a person don't confirm say me they were 3. When me go put and say maybe they is 1 when I be Leslie Allen, Bob Allen, the famous Bob Allen. Anyway. Then they call the name now, Mami Nancy Still. It's getting very interesting. Anyway, again, let's continue the program. We like where we interact with viewers then, and we like for take people in down memory lane. So we can talk now back to the topic. Can the ECSL deliver? So you have acknowledged that the last government was awful. Why do you want them back? Well, now somebody asked that caller that question there, and we not go put any answer to that. As we will say, June 24, what you go say? And even the president said, I will go follow him. If people elect what President Biodon do, let them vote for him. We have no views on that. If people feel say we need for change, let them vote for change. But bearing in mind, say, Lord, do it peacefully, transparently, and without violence. Yes, Brother Mohammed, can we go now to the timetable? Because they're critical.
Sir. Yes, sir. Let's move to the next one. Yeah, correct. Yeah.
Yeah, let's look at the timetable. Because before this, ECSL, we don't plan, waiting to do, say we get election. Because now if you look at, we get about 90 days, almost 90 days. And for me, whenever I put that 90 days, I can remember the famous movie, to be days, the 90 minutes at Entebbe, if you remember that. So now we get 90 days for the destiny of Sierra Leoneans. So now look at the timetable where ECSL been published. That was published in 2022. So then can say the best laid plans can change. But now we're not focused too much on the activity, the dates, but let's look at the sequence of activities. Because according to this timetable, printing of ID cards was from the 2nd to the 3rd of February. That deadline was never met. Packaging and sorting of ID cards at warehouse. Remember, we talked about the warehouse. 5th to 10th of February. That again was never met. Delivery of ID cards from headquarters to district. 10th to 15th February. Again, never met. Training of polling staff, TOT, that's training of trainers, regional and district. 19th to 21st February, again, that was never met. 22nd to 24th of February for the delivery of election materials from district to constituency storage facilities. By election materials now, that is a bit complicated because election materials include ballot papers. I don't see any other things they pass. If you want to say, you check the hardware, if you want to use computers then for check. But the key issues in the ballot papers. And you cannot get them materials in a day when I am people then get for use for votes, where the other process they not take place. I don't think say them in think that it too. Distribution of ID cards nationwide, 27th to 28th March, again, that was never met. So if we look at it now, all these deadlines which were given to us, well, we'll say well in advance. Over 90% was not met. So are we still confident that the ECSL will deliver? We listen to the Tokman. He said they always get plan B. We not think say it's time, then give you plan B. So let's go to the second part when I go feel this debate. Okay, now we say 9th to 14th of April, nomination of candidates for president and OMP means ordinary members of parliament, 10 a.m. to 5 p.m. Now, for that to take place, parliament get for prorogue. Now, the English word that we use, what we call prorogue, it means this parliament, when at the 5th parliament, get for end. Because the MP, they all get for go back and becoming honorable, no more honorable. We they pull that honorable na their head. Although some monkey want to take us honorable, say even if you know to MP again, you want to keep that title. You know, we salute people in Africa, man, we like title. Just like somehow we don't serve in the diplomatic service as ambassador, when time done, he will retain the title of ambassador. And now, apart from diplomats, we get so many ambassadors. We get ambassador for music. We get ambassador for business. We get ambassador all side. Well, I think so we copy so many things and from with Nigerian people. We can forget some fun in the show. With Nigerian people, they say now people they will like titles. You know? And you know, say in Nigeria, they get too many religions like we. So everybody say, if you not do nothing in life, you fulfill now this at the month of Ramadan they come. We wish all we Muslim brother them for letting able to take care of themselves and commit their soul to God during this holy month. So it comes to the worst. If you can afford, you go Mecca, you come back, then call you Alaji. If you're not woman, then call you Alaja. So the Christians then say they want title. So they begin go Israel, and then say begin add JP to their name. What's in a JP? Jerusalem Pilgrim. So this title here, and next week, one of the things we'll talk about in advance, now this thing about these fake degrees. But now look at this nomination of candidates for president and ordinary member of parliament. it come back to an issue we want to discuss now, where now this system we can use for both when at the proportional representation and the first past the post. Because at 2 elections we get 2 systems, lawmaker and 2 people. The ordinary member of parliament, for elect them, now proportional representation under the district block system. But for the presidential election, now winner takes all. So now look at this nomination for candidates for ordinary member of parliament. I don't say ECSL don't get a lot of formula. In fact, they don't become Albert Einstein for come to look about almost votes you need for get a seat in a constituency. I think it's about 11.9% of the district for one constituency and at about 4.something% to ward councillors. So with this nomination now, does it mean that we don't end March? So who still we go get this nomination going to and waiting at the implications? So over to you. If you want to throw some light, then we can go to the next part on the timetable.
I don't think I'm going to be able to throw any light on it because I'm still just in the dark with respect to what is intended and how does it work. These are some of the things. We not try to make things simple, or they try to complicate, make things so complex that everybody is left guessing. So your guess is just as good as mine because, first of all, this whole process of even if we're going to get election in June, this is almost the end. We're approaching the end of March. We don't know when canvassing or campaigning starts. And why do we have such a narrow window for campaign? Is it because this is what is done in Britain, but is that a practical thing for we? This is just the thing we have to start to look at. They just, to me, I see a system, copying a system as you want for wear a style, or somebody else wear pant clothes. But we not get one size fits all. So one size fits all. So what you do, you look at that style there, but you still get to go to tailor for measure you. So you go look good in that clothes there or that dress there as the other person. What you would do, they try for copy something. We not they try for customize them for make it fit to a system. And a lot of times, in order to produce the intended result, it may produce the intended result if we get corrupt motive. But definitely in order to produce the intended result that should be a good fit intended result, because we see say we not take with time for craft and for make it suit we like how they talk about the clothes or the dress, or, So if we get such a short campaign period, is it practical that we have to do it as it is done in England? Or should people have more time to campaign, to be able, because campaigning to me, I go equate that or compare that to a jury trial. Anybody who knows anything about trying cases, and these are some of the things also I could talk. Just because you're a lawyer doesn't mean you're a trial lawyer. Courtroom technique, courtroom efficiency is a totally different skill set. But when you go in a courtroom, from the moment when you start picking the jury, to the last moment of addressing the jury, you have to always realize, say, this is an educational process. A juror and the jury must know which of them function in society and why the verdict for be sincere and well thought out, and the damage it can cause if we not just dislike the defendant, and so on and so forth. the problem it will cause the society. So now we get the system where campaigning now seem to be such that we're going to be able to do efficient campaigning, but this is how we have it. So my question is is 1 or 2 month period for campaign before election sufficient? Because the British, they are more sophisticated. Plus, we also have to understand the British, they get a system, even though they would copy, not to the system we get. Because we not get a system whereby if we know one president deal, parliamentarians could just pull on the parliament. England, they get a system where they can change prime minister without the general public having anything to do with voting him out. So what would they try for copy? We'll for make sure, say, so if one copy the British electoral system, we'll for make sure, say, we'll get something very similar or identical to which they get. So mean that some of them comment and they, if we try for help a country, we need to look at progressive ideas, not retrogressive practices. For just give one group advantage over. I mean, the country's being doomed and younger generations are being born and they're not meeting anything we would challenge the intellect because we not care for create the structure needed for progressive ideas or practices. So I'm back to you, Mr. Mengo.
Well, I think as we say, this thing now sort of interactive. I don't know if we control room. There are 2 comments will become where I respond to. One talk about unfairness, and the other one talk about being neutral. If they keep if you can show where I'm back, yes, let me read it now. Well, this person say, well, my own views are that on a very neutral point of views. Yeah. Listen, another question in construction or syntax, because we're not in a lecture room here. Yeah. My own views are that on a very neutral point of view, based on how Sierra Leoneans vote, especially on sentiment, I think and believe that the SLPP might win in the first round without rigging. But on the contrary, if Sierra Leoneans vote on issues, especially considering the economy, I believe the APC will win hands down. So I wouldn't consider that neutral, but we welcome you for your opinion and what you say. As we say now, we therefore represent the voice of Sierra Leone as the program title today. We will take every voices, but we want a balanced view. So let's get the next comment. This person, of course, with a red bow tie, a dapper dresser. How can an election be violence-free when the government in power is using every dubious means to disenfranchise a good number of the electorate? The only reason for that is the belief that they have in their pockets those holding onto the guns. Thank you for your comment. Well, let's go back to one issue where you raised, which is a concern, and I need to raise that. The short window for the campaign period. And what we've seen now is, again, somebody talking about incumbents, you have talked about the same thing. We are taking some issues very petty. Although some people will say, not to president tell them to do so. And I give an example. Now, we get to IG. We put out a statement say there is no political rally because campaign team no carry it. They don't want political rally. Right? Recently, we see the opposition candidates there. Then go visit the Leon Stars team in training. Again, the SLF or whatever put out a press release, say let them not go disturb the players. And this thing happens when the other side does it. And now with the talk of this, and me, I stand challenged. I like to be neutral and balanced. We don't get campaign period yet, right? And the IG don't say we will ban political rally. But recently, we noticed that the president and his wife get their own different way. The wife, they go around promoting our handshake for our girls, Fine, that's our flagship project. But that's a cunning way of campaigning. Now here we have a sitting president, right, who talks on his records. In fact, in one of the addresses the way he give in people the way he go talk to, he said, vote him the #1 man in Africa. And the minister, one of the best ministers in the world. So then because he don't do work for the country. We appreciate you, Mr. President. But for God's sake, now you're going around the country, say you go meet people them they want to tell you thank you for the work we don't do. If you to say then they only tell you thank you. Either where you don't come on the office, or where you don't come back after the election. So this idea of say going around for people and go tell you thank you, I'm afraid, sir, I stand corrected. It's campaigning in disguise. But Mohammed, I don't know what's your take on that before we go ahead.
Yes, sir. My take on that is not in disagreement with you. I just want to analyze the characteristic of the office of the presidency. I think being a president gives you an undue advantage in that sense. And I think it borders on the power of incumbency. Because as president, you can at any moment go anywhere in the country, make speech on almost any issue, and even though it may border on campaigning, but it had to restrict a sitting president not to do that or not to take advantage of it. To me personally, and this is not in disagreement with you because I think reasonable people can differ, I personally wouldn't have any problem with him going around telling people thanks and doing all of that. He's just taking advantage of the office he holds. I think that's some of the fringe benefits of being president. You get advantage over your opposition or your ordinary person. And I personally wouldn't want to restrict or condemn or try to prohibit such practices. But at the end of the day, the people, you are right in the sense that you tell thank at the end of everything, not in the midst of it. So, and the people will be very grateful. People get their own brains. If they appreciate what you've done for them over the years, and you don't have to go around the country telling thank you. The people will be thanking you for being such a good leader. But that said, my only thing is the power of incumbency probably again that leeway of going around saying what he's saying, the same the flexibility with the opposition and self not get. But now you mentioned something about pettiness. So to me, this is what I don't understand. And there are a lot of things about Australian politics. If we can try for refine them, we will do ourselves a favor. Number one, it shouldn't be the police chief, the inspector general, who determines when people should campaign or not campaign. I don't see how the police, a civil service sector, should be so, well, what is the point of why can't the police, the IG just become the electoral commissioner and determines how people campaign, what kind of election we hold? Because if he's going to let people, if he's going to decide when people campaign and don't campaign, I don't think that's the function of the police. We get for refining areas here for the good of the country. You know, we get for take the police out of politics. It's been going on for too long. You know, from Albert Maga in terms, Shaka Stephen in terms, they're all private practicing this retrogressive pattern of governance. And we still seem for continuing, and then we expect progress. We're not going to have progress. The police needs to stay, we need to follow the Kenyan pattern. We'll get a video we'll play where the current Kenyan president, who had been in opposition, is lecturing the Kenyan police. Stay out of politics. You know, job now for protect the country and property. That includes opposition, governments, and ordinary people. The moment we learn that practice, they will be on the right path to progress. But as long as we can have power, we misuse the police, which is what I consider that to be, for inject themselves into politics and help the party in power for oppress others, it will be just a vicious cycle. We're not going to make progress. We're not going to move anywhere. That said, let me answer a call. Hello, caller. What's your name and which side you call from? Hello, caller. What's your name? Which side you call from? Hello? Hello? Hello, caller. I can hear you attempting to call. Okay, we may lose you, but let's move on. So just what I said, Mr. Mangum, I'll just pass it back to you. I'll just hand it over to you, sir.
As you say again, I would like to also buttress the point you make and support what you say, well, the power of incumbency. And as you say, there's nothing wrong. And I also hold that view with the president touring the country, showcasing his good works. But again, one of the key issues here is the kind of message that is conveyed during these meetings and these outings. You also talk about the police. And security is very paramount, especially as they approach these elections. I don't know if the technical team gets an audio about recently the president, one statement we make, which has hit the social media with different interpretations. I would like us to listen carefully and let us give your own views on that, and also encourage people then for coming and say what you know say. I don't know if the control room can play us that audio at this moment.
Now, when I duty for protect, when I young people there, when I protect, when I young vote there, however we get policeman, however we get soldier man there, they are not enough for me everywhere at the same time on that day. We get 8 million people. We don't even get 10,000 soldier man there. So we're not able to spread them for protection. We don't even get up to 20,000 policemen there. They're not going to all time for protection. But you can protect yourself. So young way, no way, fellow way.
Yes, it's a short message, right? But let me give you the first take, and then I'll follow.
Yeah, go ahead.
Can you hear me?
Yeah.
You want me to go first on this one?
Okay. Yes, sir. I say go ahead. Yeah.
Now, yes, what the president is telling us now is that we don't have enough security, right? The police are not enough. Even the military are not enough. And when you take the numbers compared to the population is small. But when you start telling people they have to protect their own votes or whatever, people can interpret it in different ways. The president might have more willingness or thinking that people should be vigilant. But such statement without clarification can mean even taking the law into their own hands. Because why? I'm subject to confirmation. One of the things we've had, that if you take the district gets several constituencies there. And at the constituencies then, Now they votes in the take place. And normally now they kick out. But now, subject to confirmation, we've heard that the various ballot boxes will be taken to district headquarters for do final count. And that again is something that is very crucial, because for move them from the various polling stations to the main tallying center requires logistics, requires security, right? Requires safety of even the personnel. So if we are being told that the security services are not enough to protect those votes, the people should protect those votes, what are the implications for that in terms of fairness or curbing of violence or even fraud by switching ballot boxes? That is my concern. Over to you, sir.
All right, sir. Well, I think it's very unfortunate that the president is sitting down there, because first of all, a president for speak with clarity, with definiteness in his statement, so people do not go misinterpret or misunderstand anything we say. When you use the word guard, when you guard something, it raises the specter of violence at any time, because you guard them because there's a suspicion that someone might want to take that thing from you. And if one person wants to take that thing from you, there's going to be a contention, which may lead into violence. But the president says something where I think he needs to reflect on that. I know of no country, nowhere, no continent in the world, where law enforcement population matches the population of the country. It's impossible. Nowhere. The law enforcement, quantitatively, the number of police, the number of army, the number of whatever you call them, special units, will always be everywhere, in every setting, far less than the population. So the president should know that this is something he shouldn't be even talking about. Because so the ratio in terms of law enforcement people to the population, now, but that doesn't mean, it's almost like saying, since we not get enough police in relation to the population in a city or in a locality, I go advise certain people and for take the law into their hands. Because not to always when something go wrong, when we will get police, because police are much fewer than the population. Well, that is a fact everywhere in the world. So I think the president should be more balanced in his statement where they make that kind of a thing there, and not in a subtle way give wink to people who are already prone to violence, to say, well, the president does say for protect your own ballot. It is the government's responsibility. The president cannot shift that responsibility to individuals. The president just cannot. It is the responsibility to look at the reality on the grounds and then deal with the situation accordingly in a peaceful way. And at the government and duty for set an atmosphere of peace and tranquility. People don't have to kill each other when it comes to elections, because we're in another country where elections are taking place. People we not even see police now, they pull and boot them. Okay, let's say we're not developed to that level there. But what Mr. Mengot just mentioned, just now, is a recipe for problem. Because you did talk again, we'll talk about chain of custody. If an election has taken place, why not just count there, right there, not move the box them, and just report to the center that receives all this information. Say, let's say, if in a Bo district, Bo 1, or 1 and constituency, polling is over, or voting is over, we're not count. with the representative of the various or the respective parties then, everybody see openly the number of votes that were cast and who had what, and reported to the center where they receive all the information there. Why move and pull in box or boxes, knowing full well that there's a possibility of switching boxes, there's a possibility of people having suspicion of foul play. So why create even that suspicion there? I mean, the government should be more responsible than that. So I think the president needs to reconsider what he said and try not to heighten people in suspicion. Now in duty for coil down any suspicion of irregularities when the elections come. You know? So that would be my own comment. So I don't think that was a very well thought out statement by the president. It appears that somebody is trying to get a call. Hello, caller. What's your name? Who's that you call from?
Yes, the same person again. Jalo
Right,
Jamboria from Norway.
Welcome back.
You see, that statement is a very unfortunate statement coming from the presidency. First of all, we have an institution that is responsible to conduct elections in Sierra Leone. If ever such a statement should have been made public, it should have come from the Electoral Commission or the Electoral Commissioner. Secondly, this is not the first elections we are going to have in Sierra Leone. And I'm sure this is not the first time we've had this issue of security personnel not being available enough to monitor elections. My concern is, why should such a statement come from the head of state? Is he declaring war? Because such a statement is an open statement to say, go and do as you like. He has declared anarchy.
Mm-hmm.
Secondly, why do we have to be so concerned about what is happening on elections day if we genuinely believe we have worked in the interest of the nation? My third concern is, if this is a genuine statement from the president, why didn't he make it on national media? And why was it made at a specific geographical location where he had to end it with a mandate sentence? I think Sierra Leoneans should begin to note these things. If our country deteriorates into any conflict, President Julius Maada Bio should be the principal culprit. Because what he has done was done by Donald Trump in America. We see what happened.
Precisely.
The same thing was done in 1994 in Rwanda. We saw what happened. Some of these things, we should not treat them lightly. Sierra Leone is bigger than all of us. And people should begin to respect that, irrespective of your office. I would end it there, sir.
Thank you very much, Mr.
I think
Jambor.
what we would expect, we know Voice of Sierra Leone TV network online is widely circulated. We do hope that the president's spokesman, as usual, who is always there to defend it, his integrity and his well-meaning intention, in the next couple of days, he can elucidate on this statement and clarify this issue, because it's a cause for concern. We at VOS hold no views on it, but we will appeal to the government and, in particular, the presidential spokesman to throw some light and some clarity on this issue. I think we should leave that to rest at the moment. The other thing I think which has made this program very interesting, I can see people still associating themselves with some old constituencies and bringing some very notable names. I mean, some of which the younger viewers would not even relate to, like South End, Central One, you know. Yeah, there's notable names like Fanny Wawa was also from Central South End. Okay, we know about that. But then I think to round up this part of it, we've gone almost 2 hours now. One of the key issues that we should close on is this idea of election petitions. If we can get the timetable up. Okay, there you can put.
Let Mr. Muhammad finish, then we'll answer them. Mr.
No,
Yes,
we
sir.
can answer
Thank you,
them now.
Okay. Hello, caller. What's your name? Who's you to call from?
Good evening again from my side. This is Fodo Mustafa from Leicester.
Mr. Mustafa.
Thank you again for hosting the program. You see, actually, the thing the politicians they do now for just win election. After winning election, nothing happens. They want to stay in power, but they don't want to do anything, or they cannot do anything to change the lives of people. You can see the desperation on the part of the government, I mean the president. It don't pass 6 months or to 1 year now. He didn't move for the go down there. So he they try to build this kind of now make it stop and they make it make people and say we are one, we are related, me are the default owner. You could see the desperation. Up to uttering this kind of statement, say now for protect your vote. But you didn't have power. If you don't do all what you say, you don't do. I mean, say you never worry much about say you go camp up, you go win again or not. But the way I see the desperation, every other week you don't go back for go campaign. Every other week you don't go back for go campaign. And you know they go give a statement say I have increased minimum wage. I have made living conditions better for you. I have made these, you know, these are the kind of things the way people and they tell people them, then they go they sleep. But we can't talk no more say, all we can say I don't do up. And then how? Still what are not they? So you can see the kind of desperation where they lead the president for say this kind of statement. To me, personally, who wins doesn't matter. It doesn't matter to me. What it matter to me, first way they reform governance, first way they change the way things are happening. Because if you want a different result, you have to do things differently. But you want this power for whole up. But when they give that power, you just sit down upon the power, you are not doing anything. This is not a problem. Because this man, you have had 5 years. You've had 5 years, and inside these 5 years, if you actually get a program, after 2 years, if you don't show, 3 years, if you don't in full flow, that means the economic program. Because now only economic program, now in the country. Even this, when they talk, say, oh, put education 21% or this and that 22%. The previous government, me even though I don't believe on the figures of both governments, the other governments left at 17%. I don't believe in all these things. But you check them on there, they all when they talk about now for just pay salaries. You cannot become a prosperous nation by living hand to mouth with the call them. Because this now we just say we pay salaries. Most of that money when they talk about 22% salaries. Even the school back there when they say they go buy for picking and shoes there. Now other people go buy they you know even $600,000 when they talk about. The government does not have that money to buy these books and bags. So you can see, for me, it's not about winning power. It's what you do with that power. But in Sierra Leone, it's just elections. You turn AYV, you turn SLBS, you turn the other thing. Now we just talk about election. Should it be like that? Look what happened the other day. I think last day I not been late on this point. You go build an airport. Nobody no get the brain for ask say when I count the inventory of what you spend when I spend for this airport. Now we see the 270 million for just a building. If it is true say that 270 million, it go inside that building. Because not just the building you can't build. The infrastructure of the airport was already there. So not just that building can be that terminal building. So nobody's asking these questions. We just don't talk about election. Election today again the rally. Tomorrow again we'll go for campaign. For me, this is nonsense. Thank you very much for giving me the opportunity. Bye-bye.
Thank you, Mr. Mustafa, as always, for calling and making valuable contributions. Your point is well taken, or your points are well taken. Thanks. Please continue to make your contribution as always. We have another caller on the line. Hello, caller. What's your name and where you call from?
Yes, good afternoon, Mr. Shilo. This is Kindi Lembo. Good afternoon, Mr. Mengot. This is a program where I can listen to every Sunday.
Thank you, sir.
But my own opinion, what they come up with today, I they try for Ecsl now, Mr. Shilon, Mr. Mengot, and even Mr. Jamboya, we just call you. I don't know if we don't come together and they think about for come with a third force. We are in selfless, retired diaspora like us, respectable man like una. We will come up like 5 or 10 of una and form a force nationally. Because we are Salon D. Salon need help. And the help will not get forgotten from APC or SLPP. I don't see Salon na commodity goodies. APC, SLPP, APC, SLPP. Na commodity goodies will not get for go before. Salon need help. And the help get to come from diaspora. And the diaspora them na ban like una. Almost retired people who are well experienced like Mr. Mengot, Mr. Shilon, Mr. Jamboya, una need for Sidom and come together 5, 10 like una experienced selfless people. They go form a force. This not for this one, this election coming, but maybe the next one. Salon need a third force, but we not will get the help. We will talk now till when. Nothing not get for be changed. The constitution will say a need for be changed. APC or SLPP, they not go do that change. It's not possible. The help get for common diaspora. I mean, the hope say before they get help with diaspora and go influence the parliamentary system. But I they see it not be possible. So I they think see this time your opinion. Selfless, determined, almost retired diaspora like Mr. Mengot, and I be done here, but I get a good friend some years back who don't tell me about good work where you help personally in England. Una Sierra Leone and the way need for come together, form a team, we go make a force. But APC and SLPP Sierra Leone will ever go before. Like commodity goodie. For instance, they run a mate way Samora Peak, Cherikoku. Look the passports. The pioneer of the pegging to the dollar. And look how this government don't go through as leader of the opposition. By now, if I don't make name by this government, but we not even the mayor, we hear the mayor pass the leader of the opposition. So you go begin for CC. Even if this government they lose power, now almost the same thing they come to. But with the hope and see, waiting get to come. But waiting me to see Sierra Leone over 61, 62, 63 years. Now the same thing with the go. APC, SLPP. And as we say all the time, the constitution needs for the change. The constitution needs for the change. We not get forget that changing from APC or SLPP. So at the hope say and the thing say selfless, determined, he almost retired one day like you, Mr. Shilon, Mr. Mengot, Mr. Jamboya, you know that we get that good decent Sierra Leoneans there at the diaspora where they want to go do something better. But this APC, SLPP business they don't make well-meaning for Sierra Leone. They don't get courage. They don't get the access for even go deeper, the mess with them deeper. It's just too apprehending. It's painful. They have the country today. This is a big mess. Mother Bio.
All right. Thank you, caller. We'll get other callers on the line and we don't want to lose track of what you want to say so we can comment on that. with our approach, we just almost there now. We wrap up time or wrapping up time. So thanks for what you just said. Let me take another call. Hello, caller. What's your name and which side you call from?
Okay, this is a man calling from the US. Thank you very
Yes,
much,
sir.
Mr.
Okay.
Yeah, just want to make a quick observation, probably bring and come to our attention. Listening to the president a couple of minutes ago, it's difficult for let somebody misinterpreting comments because, I mean, put into context, all the variables are there where they point to one thing. It asks the people then for become the police, which means police the votes, because we don't have enough police to do it. We don't have enough soldiers to do it. So basically, they try to tell the people and say, now una for turn the police. And where in that instance, the chaos it creates. So it's a difficult one. It's an unfortunate situation for them we get such comments from the president, the number one man of the country, where suppose for tell the people and say, una call una at everything they under control. We're supposed to give the people the assurance. But now in how they come, they create the fear in the minds of the people. Now, this is not strange. There is a pattern. A couple of weeks ago, we were evaluating the Deputy Minister of Internal Affairs, say, na AYV, where he makes some unfortunate comments back relating to how then determine for treat anybody we go team up with an opposing voice regarding the situation we currently go on at the country without, and regarding the elections and all of that. So if we hear this kind of statements as well from the president, one go on to ask the question, say, is this something that they plan for do? A corner where we don't know? Is there something bad that these people are trying to do? Now this country, the one creates chaos, were difficult to understand, but the situation is so unfortunate, and there is this emerging pattern which people really need to take note of, and the media and the opposition party then really need to come out and ask the right questions. Thank you very much again, sir.
Thank you so much, sir, for calling. We greatly appreciate your contribution. So I don't know if my co-host, Mr. Mengot, want for comment on some of the answers. Then we could try to wrap it up. Back to you, Mr. Mengot.
Well, I think so, given the time, because it's almost one o'clock now to me now, you know, I would like for acknowledge waiting the last but one speaker talk about the role of experienced and retired people in the diaspora get involved in Sierra Leone. And I've always have Sierra Leone in my mind, and I'm willing to give back, and I've been giving back. Just to round up, if you remember sometime on this platform, me and you, we talk a lot about the role of Parliament and some of these standing orders. Well, recently, I'm sure there's an announcement from Parliament saying they don't review the standing orders. By the way, for that, we don't know, standing orders are the rules of engagement, where at least a lot of things the way they happen with our Parliament now because the rules them imbalance. And personally, I created the Sierra Leone Parliamentary Watch Facebook page where I will invite people and for go there for go see some of my policy statements that they make on various areas, transport, governance, with over 80,000 subscribers. I can boast of having one of the largest. So some of us are giving back. And now appeal to we brothers in the diaspora, because one of the statements here, somebody say we twist the president's statement, you know these people are violent. I mean, in the way you address them, we here are seasoned professional, we are neutralists, we are grandfathers, we are fathers, we've accomplished in our different fields. You know, I mean, like you say, stop twisting the president's statement to further your political agenda. We have no political agenda, right? So let's make that clear. We're doing it for love of country. And we're glad where we interact with people and they give them views, and we hold no views. So any view that we hold, we can qualify. And when we come at the show, with a fact check. And when some of these statements happen, I make an invitation to the presidential spokesman. Because at times, when anybody can talk, even we in ourselves, you can talk with emotions. And sometimes you can say, see where you know like for do. Now make so even here with the broadcast, when we make statements, then people are already around, because with the broadcast loud, when they correct we are big enough to accept the correction and announce and acknowledge the contribution. So let's continue to work for the country. We appreciate all of you people, and I feel to say, let us work towards a peaceful, free elections. If my final word, the president and his team believe say they don't do well, let them sell their good works to the people. The people will decide. If the people decide, say, well, it's time for a change, let them give the people the chance for make those choices. But whatever choice we as Sierra make, Lord, bear in mind that choices have consequences. And that's my final word.
Okay. Thank you, Mr. Mengo. Finally, let me just say something very quick. Whoever they call for, say, would try for promote a political agenda, I would like, who that they think that way, I take the position that they are not even thinking, they're just talking, they're being driven by emotions. But let me tell whoever they say anything and they say, substance no matter to them, and you get counterpart then at the other party, we see things that way. You should never say anything critical of the party you love. Then you get a political agenda. So just remember that you kind and then at the other party, and you kind and not the help for let the country go forward. We also they encourage you when they say so, you will be more helpful to the overall discourse. If you think so, we'll get political agenda, say so and tell us what you suspect the political agenda to be. We they encourage people to make meaningful contribution. We want come up with ideas. It's not enough for just say, oh, you get a political agenda. That means nothing. It contributes nothing. It doesn't help. Okay? You just spewing words that don't carry any meaning. We want people of some degree of intellect, some people of sense of contribution, some people that want for help the country go forward. But I want to remind you, say, you kind and then at the other party too. We go lay their life on the line. They're not going to see any wrong way APC do. They're not going to see anything wrong way Ernest Koroma do. So you kind of, we'll get one plenty on both sides. So maybe that's the reality of life. We have to have you can on a kind of people. Truth no matter. Waiting matter now waiting the love we wanna get for whatever the reason is, we connect you to that leader day. We don't rise above that. We consider ourselves nothing but Sierra Leoneans. And I still maintain, if you want to be president of Sierra Leone and you have any speck of tribalism in you, you shouldn't even run, because you are not running to become president of any political, any tribal group. You have to have the broad perception and vision, of how you go bring all the 17 tribes there and be president for we all, not for a tribe. Because if you have to be a tribe, a headman, you can go and run for chieftaincy. But if you want to be president, with the reality on the ground that you not get one tribe, no president belongs to all the tribes, so you can forget some concept how you will unite and try to talk to we all as president of the country. So promoting one tribe over another tribe, to me, that shows your limitation. You know, get the ability for be a leader for a country. So again, we do our best. We go always appreciate people, and when people are not get for say, but we try for the level when I know say, we just try for say it like we can say in America, we say it like it is. We just want to let people and see let them make their own analysis, they inform the people, and then election tend to come, and then we'll go see how it turns out. But thanks everybody for calling as usual. Looking forward for hearing from Ona. Even the one that we think still will get political agenda. Please tune in, call, make your comments. Your comments are still welcome. We know they try to stop you from calling and expressing yourself. Okay, so thanks everybody. Have a nice evening. Good night.